Yeah, so this really, Paul, puts to rest this ongoing investor debate about whether, the Paramount $30 all cash bid for all of Warner is really, in fact, superior to Netflix's bid, which is a combination of both stock and cash, especially since the value of Netflix's stock has been declining now for many months. So I think what Netflix really aims to do here is to first of all to show David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders the money. So they're going all cash, and they're basically saying that we want to really get this deal on a fast track here because this will speed up the shareholder vote. It will now happen sometime in April. It was previously supposed to happen sometime in June. So they're really kind of getting going here and, putting the money where their mouth is.
First thing when I saw this news this morning, Geetha, I put my old banker hat back on. I said, boy, it seems like Netflix is bidding against itself because we haven't heard any kind of counter bid from Paramount here. What do you think's going on behind the scenes with both of these bidders?
Yeah, so Paramount, obviously they've been constantly insisting about the superiority of that $30 all cash offer. With Netflix having changed its bid to an all cash bid, I think the ball is now squarely in Paramount's court. They have to increase or sweeten their bid. One of the things, Paul, that has been constantly debated is the value of the TV networks. That is the remaining portion of the business that Netflix will not acquire. So this will be spun off by Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount has argued that those TV networks are actually worth nothing. That's what they've said, and they've based their argument kind of on the performance and the valuation of Versant, which is the Comcast cable network spinoff. But Discovery actually put out a filing today, and it basically suggests that, of course, there's a huge range for those cable TV networks, but they value them anywhere from about $1.50 a share to as high as $7 a share. And they kind of lay out many different scenarios, basically suggesting that, some of those networks, like a CNN, like some networks, international networks in Poland, could actually be sold. And, a lot more shareholder value could be extracted, so to speak. So I think Warner Brothers still believes that the spinoff of the cable networks will actually bring it more value. And this is why they're kind of leaning towards that Netflix offer.
What's the timing here, Geetha? Do we wait until the shareholder vote until April, or do we expect something to happen? It seems to be dragging on here a little bit.
Yeah, it is. So actually, tomorrow is a very important day. And I say that because tomorrow is the deadline for the Paramount tender, which is the $30 tender.
Yep.
So expect something to happen. Either Paramount extends that offer or they basically have to sweeten the bid. So something definitely should have happened tomorrow.
Ooh.
If nothing happens, then we'll have to wait and watch and see, what happens now on the regulatory front, because now that we have all the financial terms in place, I think the next big question mark is obviously what are the regulators going to say about this deal?
And what's the early thinking there?
So it's a little bit of a mixed bag here, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Netflix actually does. So they've kind of laid out many different arguments, which should, I think, kind of soothe regulator fears, kind of not have too much of regulatory scrutiny. So they've said that they're going to maintain the HBO business. They're going to maintain the theatrical business. These were all big question marks when they initially announced the deal. One of the big things that we are kind of looking for tonight when Netflix reports earnings is what their stance is going to be on price increases. So the last time that they raised prices in the US was last January, so exactly 12 months ago. And typically they have this cadence of increasing prices every 12 to 18 months. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they are going to take that chance and go ahead and raise prices, or in fact stay away from raising prices, thus making the case to regulators that they're more pro-consumer, and they're kind of especially when the deal is kind of in regulatory crosshairs. So a lot of things here still kind of waiting to unfold, Paul, but it's going to be a very different process here in the US, where it seems like that regulators might give Netflix a green signal, but I think it's going to be much tougher for them in the EU, where they do have much higher antitrust issues.